In this tech tip, we'll talk about the anti-roll bars on the X4. And the X4 different car kits come with different anti-roll bars depending on what chassis you have chosen for your kit. So for example, the graphite kit comes with a 1.3mm front and a 1.2mm rear anti-roll bar. Whereas the alloy aluminium chassis kits, they come with a 1.4 front and a 1.3 rear. And the reason that they come with different roll bars is that those are better suited for the conditions that you're gonna race on. So for example, for asphalt, we prefer to use softer anti-roll bars for the reason that we want to generate more chassis roll and more grip from the car, more grip from the suspension in that sense. And on carpet, we try to reduce chassis roll by the use of stiffer roll bars. So 1.4 and 1.3 in that case will help to make the car more stable. It will not roll as much, it will be more predictable on direction changes and through chicanes, and it will also be less likely to traction roll. So, you have the kit roll bars, which come with the car, but we also have the optional roll bars, which we can use to fine-tune the handling of the car. So for example, we have as soft as 1.1mm rear and as stiff as 1.5mm front. And we can use these different roll bars to fine-tune the handling. So the team often likes to use a softer front roll bar for asphalt racing. So we often use a 1.2 or 1.1mm roll bar to help to generate more front grip in the middle of the corner and on corner exit on asphalt. So that will make the car more aggressive, and it often helps to reduce the lap times, to go faster. But on carpet, we mostly use the kit anti-roll bars, but also there we sometimes prefer to go softer. So 1.3 in the front and 1.2 in the rear, especially for lower grip carpet and for ETS carpet, which we run on in Europe. So what are the direct effects of changing the anti-roll bar individually front and rear? It really depends on what you're looking for in the car to decide which one you're going to change. But for example, if you need to improve the on-power steering of the car, you need to go softer with the front or stiffer with the rear. And if you need to improve the off-power steering of the car, you need to go softer with the rear or stiffer with the front. And initial steering will be improved with a stiffer front anti-roll bar. But for the X4, we mostly prefer to use the same or just a 0.1mm difference between the front and rear. This has given us the best balance in terms of handling. And on carpet, we mostly prefer to use a stiffer front than the rear, or the same. And on asphalt, we sometimes prefer to use a softer front than rear anti-roll bar. This gives the best balance for asphalt, at least for conditions with more grip. So it's fairly simple to summarize it like that, but the roll bars are a very critical part of the setup of the car. That's why we offer that many different optional roll bars to be able to fine-tune the car for your particular conditions. So now that we know what the roll bars do and what changing them do, we can move on to the next step, which is to set them up. How do we set the roll bars up to have the exact same lift and effect on the left and right sides of the car? So I'm going to put these aside for now, and we're going to take the car here, which has the anti-roll bars installed on it. We're going to put the car on these 10mm blocks here. Before I set them up, I'm going to check my downstop settings. So in the rear, we have to make sure that we have same downstop on both sides before we can check the lift of the anti-roll bar. So in this case, I've set these arms here to a downstop value of 4 on both sides. I just want to double check it, but it's 4 on both sides. That's what you need to do first. And then we can check how the roll bars lift. You can actually feel like this from side to side if the lift is close or not. It's actually pretty close now, but we might need to adjust them a little bit. So we start with these ball studs here, tighten down all the way into the ball cup. So that's the basic setting before we start adjusting the lift. But then what I do is I use a caliper. That's my personal preference when it comes to checking this roll bar lift. But you can also use any gauge really. You can use a downstop gauge or a ride height gauge, and whatever you can use to check the height of the axle when it starts to lift. So what I'm looking for here is the height of the one side when the other starts to pick up. So in this case, I'm lifting up the right side of the suspension, and I can see that it's starting to move on the other side when the height is 38 millimeters on this side. So let's put 38 millimeters on the other side and see what happens. Nothing happens, so it means that it's a bit tweaked. We're gonna have to make this lift a bit earlier. So since these are both screwed all the way down, I'm gonna have to loosen one of them. I'm gonna have to loosen one of the ball studs until we have the same lift left and right. So as you can see now, I loosened the one side and I tightened the other. Yeah, now they both start to lift at 39 millimeters. So when they both start to lift at the exact same height, it means that the roll bar is straight. So you need to adjust the height of the ball studs until you reach that desired value. And start with the ball studs threaded all the way down, and open one of them up until you have the perfect lifting point between left and right. And before doing that, we check the downstop, and we also make sure that we have free movement from the roll bar and the bearings. There should be a slight play from side to side, so there's nothing binding up. And that's it, really. I mean, this is a very precise way of checking it, but I recommend doing so because it can have a big impact on the handling of the car. So that's how you set up the anti-roll bars, and that's the conclusion of the anti-roll bar tech tip.